As mentioned, the Raiders are traveling to Cleveland on Saturday. Some Saturday football, 1:30 p.m. Kickoff on the West Coast. As it sits right now, the Raiders are 1-point favorites. Over-under is 38.5. Okay. That's not a lot, guys. There's a reason it's that low, and that's usually where I'm like, I'm going to hammer this, and it's like 4-9,
But last year's Browns game.
Yeah,
There'll be a lot of reference to the
what was it?
What was it?
It was
some weird name for the weather.
Yeah, it was like
McCorkle weather.
McCorkle?
No, it's
okay.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it was just like a combination of like hail and rain and sleet and wind. I'm like, I thought that's just like a typhoon.
Yeah.
I believe that's a scientific term, but so it is going to be similar weather. It's going to be in the high 30s, low 40s, 90% chance of rain. So just another one of those Browns games. But as noted, the Raiders are 1-point favorites, and there is a reason why for that. Throughout this week, there's been a lot of build up towards this game as the Browns have been hampered by players that tested positive for COVID, which would rule them out for this game. And Mike, I believe you have a list of those players and how it's looking for those Cleveland Browners.
Yeah, so it's not looking good for them. They currently, as of today, I believe, have 15 players on their COVID list. They've got 9 from the offense and 6 from the defense. Most notably on the offensive side, Baker Mayfield. Just today, Case Keenum popped back on that list, which puts us in an interesting situation I will touch on after we get through this. But they also have Jarvis Landry, Austin Hooper, and then Jedrick Wills, their big time tackle. And then they have on the defensive side, Tack McKinley, and a couple of their cornerbacks, Troy Hill, safety John Johnson III, another defensive end, Ifidu Odenigabo. I definitely didn't pronounce that right.
Oh, you nailed that thing.
But anyway, so they's, obviously not the whole list, but they've got a lot of people out, a lot of stuff to deal with. The Raiders on our side, Waller's out again, and then we got Perriman as well is out, and Trayvon was on a one game stint, I guess, because he's on IR, or not IR, but he's back hurt again. So ours not as big as theirs, obviously, but we like I said, Case Keenum just popped up for there, so they're rocking just a third string quarterback, which couldn't have been worse for the Raiders, because if anyone remembers the Raiders playing the 49ers Thursday night, third stringer Nick Mullins came out and put up a 34 burger on us. Which we were at that game. Shout out Hooch, if you're listening to this. Hooch. We all endeared together, unfortunately. But anyways, struggling through the COVID stuff, and the Browns are, and it's kind of ripe for the pickings to go and get this W for us. So.
Well, it's hilarious because we knew obviously there was Baker Mayfield was out. I didn't realize it was Troy Hill and John Johnson III. Those are big time starters. Troy Hill is more of a nickel corner, and Johnson's a safety. But obviously Jedrick Wills, he's their left tackle. But we were about to get ready to record, and you got the update that Keenum was out also, and that brought in Nick Mullins, and we both were like, "Oh my gosh, it is Nick Mullins." It's just, if you were going to give us any third string quarterback, I didn't even know he was on the Browns. Did they just sign him like today?
They're like, we're playing the Raiders. We need an extra backup. This is the guy.
Goodness gracious. Yeah. It's just the name you don't want to see, but yeah, we'll see. They do have, I believe, until tomorrow to decide whether the game is suspended. What that would be is they would probably move it to Monday, to a Monday night game, to allow the Browns to free up some players that clear protocol. I believe they have to have at least 46 active players that can suit up. So if the number gets under there, then they have to postpone it. So who knows what's going to happen? But we're going to have to preview it as if the game's going Saturday and those guys are out. So what I first think of is obviously the weather is going to be important here, because it's just going to be one of those messy games. And just like it was for just like it was for the Raiders last year when they played the Browns. They're going to have to fight through the conditions. So, Micah, do you want to start off with just kind of, we'll just preview just both sides. We don't got to split it up by any means. Just kind of your thoughts, feelings. And as it's uncertain, we have to just deal with it as if the game is on. So any thoughts on the game, just on either side of the ball?
Yeah, well, with the weather like that, it's obviously going to be something where we are going to have to try to see what we could do on the ground, which we haven't been good at. Obviously, we've aired out our woes in that regards. But as far as the offense is concerned, last time that we played them in this type of situation, Josh Jacobs went off. He had 31 carries, 129 yards. It's gonna be hard to see him possibly pulling up another, number like that. But the offense in general put up a little over 200 yards rushing as a whole. So it's kind of they were just feeding everybody. They were running the ball, and I think that we're gonna really have to try to get some semblance of an effective run game. I guess it doesn't have to be dominant. We don't have to go out there and put up 200 yards, but we're going to have to rely on the run game in this kind of situation, unfortunately. On the defensive side of things, this is perfect time for, like we were talking about I was talking about how Max Crosby is so close to get there and get these in these sacks and putting pressures on them, and we're not turning those pressures into active sacks. But they've got a few different offensive linemen that are out with some guards too. So I think this is prime time for our defense to try to take advantage of getting to the quarterback. I don't know how much they're going to pass because they're probably going to be in the same situation. Luckily for them, their most dominant player in Nick Chubb is like the only one standing on that offense. So they'll probably hand him the ball 45 times, if I had to guess, and he might still tear us apart. So I don't know. It's really hard to preview this game. Along with how much of a intangible the weather can be on this regards. Them having so many people out, it's nothing. We're not really going to see a whole lot of what you can look at on tape for the Browns as far as like how we match up with them. So, we're hanging on by a thread as you explained. We're still right there in the hunt, but with the way that this team feels, it feels like we're hanging on by a thread. Right. And so I think if they're going to have any success in this game, which I wholeheartedly think we can go out here and win, minus Nick Mullins channeling his early, was it 2018? No, not 2018. 2017?
It was 2017, actually.
2017.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. His 2017 Thursday night game. But I think they literally just have to do the absolute basics. They have to be able to control the game at the line of scrimmage on both sides of things. This is going to be a big test for our offensive line in regards to seeing if we can just get some push. Myles Garrett is still going to be out there. He's probably going to tear us apart in one way or another. But I don't know. It's hard for me to sit here and preview this game right now with so many different variables. But week in and week out right now, I think it's literally just stop getting in your own way, run the ball. That's what we had success doing last time we played them. Last year in the same kind of situation, we won 19-9. It was very low scoring. But I think if we can just kind of get some semblance of our run game, being able to, not take over the game, but have some type of normalcy and have some type of steadiness to it, is going to be the difference maker. I think whoever is able to establish the run essentially is going to be, the ones who can come out of here and control this game. Unfortunately, we haven't been, and unfortunately, that's one of the most powerful parts of their offense. So it doesn't look good in regards to that blanket statement. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting game.
Yeah, and sorry, did you mention Stefanski?
Oh, I did not. No,
Yeah.
Stefanski also has COVID, so they're missing their head coach as well,
and their running backs coach. But yeah, it's just, I don't know if hilarious is the right word, but if this game goes and they have all these players out, and we just look at it with who's in right now, it's like you said, they still have Nick Chubb, and there's no Denzel Perriman for the Raiders, who's our leading tackler, who's at his best in rushing, like playing the run. And then for them, they have no, like their secondary's banged up, and we are the best part of our offense is passing the ball, as we talked about, and it's going to be a downpour and 40 degrees, and that's never suited Derek Carr, either weather or rain or both. So it's, I guess I'm just going to use the word hilarious. So I'm going to stay optimistic there, but it's going to have to be a ground and pound game, and we have Jacobs, and we have a banged up O-line, inexperienced O-line. So it's going to be just interesting. Now that I'm thinking about the over and like the 38.5, the points, I'm like, I don't know if they get to 13 points, so we'll see. But I really just think that it's going to be a weird game regardless. Even if everyone was playing, it would be a weird game, but because the Browns are also coming off a rough stretch as well. So the way that, I guess we could just say Twitter or Raider Nation has responded to all of these, being 1-5, the terrible losses against the Chiefs, losing to the Giants, the Washington football team, 40 burgers by the Chiefs in 2 of those 6 games. If we lose this game, I just don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what we're going to do. And then it'll basically remove the first part of this, the first segment of our podcast about how optimistic I am. That's when I'll just say the Raiders are done.
They're already going for Davis's head and Carr's head and Mayock's head. They're already just going for everyone to get out of there and clean ship and be gone. So,
well, and then the other thing too is, so we said, Waller is out. Foster Moreau's questionable. And so then we're down to our third tight end with no Alec Ingold and a bad offensive line and no Kenyon Drake. All right.
How well are we going to run the ball?
Just 5 wide? Dylan Stoner just out there constantly? Like, I don't know. It's going to be
Zay Jones on crackback blocks the whole time.
Yeah. I wish I could be like, here's some areas the Raiders can attack. I'm just like, I don't know who's going to be out there. And even as unfortunate it is for the Browns, they still could very well win this game outright pretty easily. That's why the Raiders are only favored by 1. So we'll see. We'll see, guys. Maybe we put Merritt as just like the backup running back. So somehow we're going to have to do this. We're going to have to make some predictions. I'm going to let you go first. I'm going to let you have it.
You're the most kind person in the world.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. I don't have a whole lot of expectation for this game, except for we should win this with how many issues they have. That being said, like you said, they very well could go in and win it too. So I think we do get the W. Okay. I think we get the W. I think we win 14-10. I think it's very low on the under. I think it is like, I don't know. I think you probably see Jacobs. I'm gonna call it right now. Jacobs gets both our touchdowns. That one might be a receiving touchdown down in there. I think Jacobs gets both our touchdowns and only has about 47 yards rushing. See, he puts up a daring McFadden on Monday. Was it Monday night where he passed for a touchdown? He ran for a touchdown, but only had like 23 yards rushing or something.
Exactly.
Something ridiculous. It was like the greatest fantasy game and worst fantasy game ever. It's like, I don't know. Anyways, I think it's going to be a debacle of a game. I think we see I'm going to call the Raiders coming out ahead. I think we're going to trade off rushing touchdowns. They'll get a field goal at some point, and we'll put it in the end zone, and it'll just be sloppy back and forth, and in between all that. So, yeah, that's where I'm going to go, and that is a complete whim, complete guess, and I like where I'm going with it. So
I like it. I'm going to get weird. I'm going to go 15-9. And that sounds like a ton of field goals, but alas, it's only a handful. So I think the Raiders score touchdown, miss the extra point, and then have 3 field goals. There's my 15. And then I think the 9 is a field goal, a touchdown, and a missed extra. I'm calling 2 missed extra points and a couple of field goals. And I'm just adding to the weirdness. It's just going to be 15-9 Raiders come out on top. They just have to win this game. There's no other way to put it. It's like, it's on a silver platter, and I don't care. I know we just talked about how even with the matchups right now, they still have some advantages. You got to take care of business. You have to. You're getting handed an opportunity to get back into the playoff hunt. And they got to come back. They got to come back with the dub. And if they don't, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I think it's just, like you said, they're just going to burn the ships at this point. But that's been the most interesting preview we've had. Just
I would say
circumstances.
So. Our preview was as much all over the place as this game's going to be. So,
indeed,
we really did preview the game by making our preview similar to the game.
Absolutely, we embodied exactly what this game feels like.
Raiders play the Colts this week in Indianapolis. I didn't prepare like you normally prepare with the lines.
Oh, I got it for you.
Oh, you've got it. Okay. Well, I'm going to kick it to you then. I'm going to kick you back on your normal reins and hit us with all that info.
Yep. So Raiders travel eastbound Indianapolis. The line kind of opened up before all this madness. I think the Colts were 7.5-point favorites. It moved down to 6 with the Wentz news, and now it's back up to 7. So Colts are favored by 1 tug. Over under is 44.5. So Raiders not getting a lot of love, which makes sense. Colts are hot, and the Raiders have had 2 wins, but kind of by some fortunate luck with Bridgewater being out with Baker Mayfield. So it makes sense. The line makes sense, but don't count us out, guys. We're battle tested. We are battle tested. So Raiders 7-point dogs, over under 44.5. 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, guys. So make sure that you're up and at 'em for that. So
I'm going to kick it to you to start us off and just throw you under the bus in regards to just jumping on this thing. But we've seen where we're at on possible people being gone, people not being gone, and how do you think that's going to affect? Maybe we should get a little bit on both sides of the ball, or you can start with one side or not. But how do you think that's going to affect the game in regards to the Raiders possibly being able to pull out a W, because we need it?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't really, just with the looseness of these rules now, I think I'm just going to act as if it's going to be straight across, and we'll just consider the actual injuries and folks that are out. So it's not a great matchup for us, to be quite honest. On their defense side of the ball for them is their strong suit, and that starts with Darius Leonard. They're fast. They're a fast team, sideline to sideline, and they play aggressive, and they kind of force you to beat them. They'll press you. They'll send people. They can stuff the run very well. They got dudes in the back end that, our strong suit is in the passing game. I know that we showed a little bit with the run last week, but it's going to be a tough matchup for us. And as much as the defense has done well, I think even in these wins, we've said, hey, we're not the Colts. The Colts can win off their defense in a strong running game, but that's just not our brand. So the offense has to get rolling at some point, and this is not a favorable matchup for us to do that. Waller was actually pegged to be back this week in general from his injuries. So even with the COVID, him being on the COVID list, I still think he has a chance, and that would be huge for us. So, I don't know. I don't really look at this, as something that a very favorable matchup for the Raiders. I guess as far as our offense is concerned, but on the defensive side, somehow, some way we've actually had been pretty stout in the run. Last week, had a tough matchup against the Broncos and held them to 18 yards. And I think that had a little bit to do with the kind of that vanilla approach in the passing game for the Broncos. But, I think you look at Wentz, he's someone that, I think against the Cardinals, it was against the Patriots. He was like 7 for 12 for 58 yards, and they won the game. So they're going to try to pound us. And that's fine. I think getting Hankins back is huge. Dan and I were talking, and Darius Philon, whatever. He had a good game last week, filling in for that, getting him probably the majority of the snaps. So
Philon in that position.
We had
Philon in
and
like filling in. I'm sorry, I just popped in my head. Had to. Sorry to disrail you.
No, we'll play around with that. It'll work. But yeah, I think with the confidence that the defense has shown, especially in the run game, Perriman is huge. It's huge to have him back if we can get him back off the COVID list. And obviously, KJ Wright hasn't really jumped off the the paper from stats wise or anything like that, but I think he's played a good role, and he's been very, we can put him at Mike, we can put him at whip, or we can put him in that kind of that slot linebacker too. So he's been good for us from a rotational standpoint, and then also having Nate Hobbs, he kind of fills into that nickel linebacker a little bit too. So Jonathan Taylor, he's a stud. Like there's no doubt about that. Even with their whole offensive line out last week against the Cardinals, he was still able to get out. So I don't know. It's going to be tough. We really are going to have to play them like we played Drew Lock, or how we would have played Bridgewater, where it's just like, hey, make Wentz beat us. They have some good wide receivers out there. Michael Pittman is one of his go-tos, and I know he's back from, I think it was injury or COVID, one of the two, but he's back, so that's going to be big for them. But I don't know. They're not very scary on the offense side with weapons-wise. They're just really effective in the run, time of possession. I'm a big time of possession guy, as everyone knows. They're just able to pound you and beat you up, and when they do that, defense gets worn out, and then they make the opposing offense just say, hey, you guys got to beat us. You guys, we're going to come at you. We're going to try to cause turnovers. I think they have like 11 straight games with a turnover. So they're always ripping at the ball, which doesn't bode well for us because we fumble a lot. So it's just going to be, it's a tough 2 games when you got to win 2 to get in with the Colts and the Chargers. But I don't know. We got to be able to get home. We got to be able to force Wentz to beat us a little bit and send Max and, Yannick at them. But that comes down to the offense being effective and being able to put up points, and we haven't been able to do that, and that's just what scares me. So, we've gone into Indianapolis and won. That was Phil Rivers' time. No, it was actually Jacoby Brissett, Eric Harris. Yeah, Eric Harris to the house. So, I don't know. It's going to be a tough game, and the Raiders they've had such an up and down year, so much adversity that they faced that. If we lose this game, I think you said if we lose this game and the Chargers win, we're out. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so I think basically nullifies our chances of getting in there. I mean, if maybe there's a way, I haven't really done it much, but looking into it, if we lose, we need the Broncos to beat the Chargers for us to really have a decent shot at doing it. So we can dive into it more. We'll see how this game pans out, dive into it a little more after this week and see how it goes. If that does end up being the situation, I'm sure we're both going to be on the ESPN machine tinkering with every little thing that could possibly happen to see, what would work for us to make it in there. But yeah, I think that if I'm not mistaken, it's pretty cut and dry that if we lose and the Chargers win, we're done. So
yeah. And point Dan just made is that what's also scary is that their offense doesn't scare you with the weapons that they have at receiver. Obviously Taylor's a stud, but Frank Wright is very creative in the plays that he calls and puts his guys in situations. So that's similar to what you see with Shanahan. What you see with McVay. The best play callers is you see Jack Doyle, creating plays for Jack Doyle to, have 20-yard catches. It's like he gets the guys the ball. He's creative with getting Taylor out of the backfield too in the passing game. So it's going to be a chess match there. And so they're able to supplement maybe lack of talent, top-end talent, with a creative scheme that Frank Wright brings. So it'll be a test. It'll be a test for us. But, if we're just banking on what we know, we have to be able to hold these guys under 24 points, to have a shot. Just with how our offense has been. So it's going to be a tough test, but yeah, that's how I look at it. I'm looking forward to the game because it's going to be fun, but I'm scared. I've been positive and been really optimistic in the last couple of weeks, but I don't feel that way this week, but who knows? Any given Sunday. And also the Chargers are playing the Broncos and they just got embarrassed in Houston. I just don't see that as like, man, hopefully the Broncos can come through, even though we want them to. We can't rely on frauds, Micah. That's just
we can't rely on frauds. And this is kind of the first time that we've been in this situation where we really do control our own destiny, because we've always been at a spot where like the Raiders need to win and this needs to happen. We're at this point where it's like the Raiders need to win and then we can move on from there. So as far as what I'm looking at, touching on the turnover side of things, they are second in the league in turnovers. They're first in fumble recoveries and fumbles forced, and fifth in interceptions. So if that didn't, that doesn't bode too well with like fumbles literally being like our kryptonite lately. And Carr's tendency to fumble when being pressured. So It's going to be very interesting. I really think on the offensive side of things, if we're going to have any success, and this may be a stupid comment, but we just can't turn the ball over. We have to limit our turnovers. That's been something that has killed drives very consistently for us this year. And the fact that they are one of the best teams in the league at causing turnovers, it could go south very quickly for us in that regard. So on the offense side, we're not losing a whole bunch of people from COVID or possibly getting stuff back. I think the defensive side of things is where that can really affect us, but also kind of looking at it on the upside of things, they're going to be missing both their tackles, like you mentioned. Max and Yannick have to get after Wentz. I feel like Wentz is one of those guys that can escape and create plays, but also like completely demolish a drive because he does something stupid. So it's almost like escaping and creating plays almost sometimes will bode better for us than just letting him throw in the pocket. So that is one thing to look after, see if Max can kind of build off of this awesome game that he had. Like you said, we saw last week how awesome it was having Perriman back. Broncos top, running offense, we initially just shut him down. So Williams and Gordon aren't Jonathan Taylor. So we'll see how that ends up working out. Getting both their starting guards back really helps. It would have been nice if their whole offensive line outside of their center would have been there, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to come down to Perriman and the linebacker stopping the run. This is going to be a stupid statement that I'm about to make because I'm literally going to say that it has to do with everybody on each level playing good. But Max needs to get to the quarterback. Linebackers need to be able to, like you said, make Wentz do stuff, make Wentz beat us, shut Jonathan Taylor down, or at least limit him. Nobody's really been able to do that this year, which is unfortunate. I don't necessarily know if I see the Raiders being that team to do it with the way our defense has played, but the run game is where our strength has been as of lately. So I think it really helps getting facing back. He's been very, very good. Hopefully Hayward's back as well. We can have both those guys there. It's going to go a long way in helping on the outside with Pittman and some of their receivers that they have at weapons that they have at receivers. So I don't know, man. It's going to be, like I said, very interesting.
Well, yeah, and if I guess I can be a little bit more optimistic here. It's like I think we can match up with them across the board with our DBs and our safeties, and so that's something that we haven't been able to say for a long time. But I really trust Hayward. I trust Hobbs. I trust Morgan the back end. Even Trufant played pretty well last week too against a good Denver wide receiving core, better wide receiving core than the Colts have. So I mean, I don't think our approach really should change as far as kind of cramming the box, or at least playing like we can play man against these guys, which would allow us to kind of shrink the field a little bit. And I think you saw us shut down, and I get it was Nick Mullins, but you saw us shut down Chubb. And when he gashed us, it was because it was after turnovers. It was after Brown's long drives where they punted or field goal or whatever, and then a quick turnover and the defense has to get back on the field. They just get worn out. So the complementary football is us being able to at least keep drives going on the offensive side and be able to at least get some points on the board to where our defense isn't just like, hey, save us whole time. And then also I think that we have weapons on the offense where I feel good one-on-one there, but it's just, can we dial up some creative plays? Can we actually, there's one thing to have dudes and good scheme or whatever, but you have to be able to execute. I think we've seen a lot of execution issues too. So it'll be interesting to see how we try to attack them in the running game. But yeah, sorry to hijack your side, but it's just, I feel optimistic as far as like, if you want to just talk man on man, I feel good. I just don't know about the style of play that their defense has, like you touched on with the aggressiveness and the way that they go after the the ball to strip it and force turnovers. We've done that just to our own self. We fumbled just because we wanted to, like Jacobs last week. So
yeah, well, and Carr had one I think the week before where he just like hit off of his own other arm or his own leg.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
Sorry, the last point is that like we've been able to survive the multiple turnover games. Because even though we didn't, we scored 16 points against the Browns, 17 against the Broncos, we were still moving the ball. Like we were still able to like get across midfield and can continue to march down. And the turnovers hampered us where they'd get the ball and go back the other way. But when we get back on the offense side, we're still able to move the ball. We just have to if we can move the ball in these guys, great. I think Denver has probably a better scheme defensive wise, but I think the Colts have a couple more dudes on their side that it's just going to be tough where we have to be able to execute and be able to battle back from. And I know we're kind of assuming there's going to be turnovers, but that's the good teams are the ones that, even though they do turn the ball over, they're able to come back and still march down the field. So we'll see. It's just going to come down to the offense. I know that everything is scary with Jonathan Taylor, but it's going to come down to the offense. And at some point in this year, even though we have 2 games left, it's like they got to be able to win a game for the defense. So keep them fresh, keep them off the field, and allow them to, to us to be able to be aggressive and put Wentz in. Hey, you're down 2 scores. Now we got to make him beat us. That's obviously the name of the game there. So I'll bet, I'll put everything in the box to stop Jonathan Taylor and say, beat us. Go ahead, Wentz. I don't care. He's got a better arm than the arms we played the last couple games. But I think that the approach, even if it was Sam Ehlinger or Carson Wentz, should just still be the same. So,
yeah, I completely agree, because I feel like if you're going to trust Carson Wentz to win in a shootout, I don't think that bodes well for you. I think, as much as Jonathan Taylor can go and just gash and gash and gash, and if our offense can match points and put up touchdowns when they put up touchdowns, and if it's something that turns into a high scoring game, and you gotta ask Carson Wentz to go out there and drive down the field as far as making some throws and stuff like that, I think that's kind of insane. Make Carson Wentz make plays. If you got to trust on him, I think we have a good shot. So it'll be very interesting. Jonathan Taylor could also go off for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, and game's over at halftime. So
yeah.
Not trying to think that way, but
I guess the last point I would say on defense for us is where I feel good is that, if you just look at the Cardinals game last week, where they, with no offensive line, they're able to gash them. The Cardinals are very thin up the middle. They're very thin as far as their D tackles. They're more kind of faster, get to the quarterback guys. And so the Colts just love to pound you between the tackles. And so I think with Hankins and, coming back, and Philon having a good game last week, and Perriman he's a run stopper first and foremost. We don't put him there to be this coverage linebacker. So I think we can hold our own pretty strongly between the tackles. So I think that's something that we're going to have to force them to run, kind of that stretch, that zone stretch run scheme that we've seen from the Browns as well. But anyways, I think that we bode well as far as being able to stop the run between the tackles. It's just when it gets loose and when someone gets pinched on the end that we can be exposed. And Taylor's, he's got home run speed. So that's where it could just be 9-8, if he just finds one seam. So we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. Well, there's not much else to do except go into Sunday hoping that we can get this W. So
well, prediction time. We're going to go around the table.
We're
going to give our predictions. Everyone here is going to give their predictions. Okay. So I will start. Okay. I'm going to start. Raiders 7-point dogs. I think they cover. All right. I don't, if I was just going to bet, I don't think we come out with a dub. I think it's somewhere around 27, 21, 28. I'll say 28, 24, where we lose. It's going to take a lot. It's going to take pretty dang good performance on the offense, and something that Dan mentioned too is that the Colts are a playoff team, and we're a team that's hoping to be a playoff team. We're really trying our best to be a playoff team. They've shown a lot of signs the back half of the year to be someone that no one really wants to see late in the playoffs, especially with their approach when it gets colder, or being able to just pound you. So I'll say Colts 28-24. I don't love it, guys, but I'm just being honest. So.
Yeah, well, then I'll be the optimistic one, right? Okay, the Raiders need a W, and I think that we have enough to squeak out a W in this one, right? All these points that you're pointing out, all these things that we're saying, I'm talking myself into it, all right? I'm talking myself into this win. I think we're going to win like we have all these other games on a Daniel Carlson field goal. So I am going to call we're going to call a 23-21 victory by the Raiders, down by 1 game-winning field goal. So that's it. That's the tweet. We got to keep them under 24 points, like you said, and we do that. So 23-21.
All right. Mike and I just went and saw Spider-Man, and in Spider-Man, they said, if you expect disappointment, it won't be as bad when it really happens. So I'm going to say Colts 38, Raiders 13.
Oh, wow. Look at you getting all MJ on us.
Psychology.
Yeah, there
Just
you
like
go.
MJ taught me.
Yeah, well, that's kind of I was trying to rock that a little bit last time when I predicted them to lose. I think to Dallas, they ended up beating Dallas, and so yeah, maybe it'll work. We'll see what happens, but I like
Yeah.
the reverse psychology.
All right. Well, we've teased it enough. We're here. It's time to talk. Time to talk turkey a little bit. Okay. Week 18. Win or go home. Los Angeles Chargers visiting the Las Vegas Raiders. They flex this game to Sunday night, so it'll be prime time. It will be right at the end of the football season. Last game of the year, cannot hold anything back now, as you noted previously. So it's a big one, guys. Okay. You've seen big ones before. You've been previewed big ones before. This is the granddaddy of them all. It's not the Rose Bowl, but it's the Bourbon Bowl. Chargers are coming into town. They are, as of today, 3.5-point favorites against the Las Vegas Raiders. Over-under is 49.5. It's the highest over-under of the week of the slate for the NFL. So a lot of points, huge points. If you're an over guy, this might be your game. So what we're going to do is we're going to break apart each side and just focus on kind of the keys to victory. Mike is going to take the Raiders offense against the Chargers defense. I will take the Raiders D against the Chargers offense. So Micah, you're on, my friend. Give us the preview. Give us the optimism. Give us all the vibes that we need right now.
Yeah, so I mean, Raiders offense is really clicking on a lot of cylinders right now outside of turnovers. And granted, they have gotten to points where they've started out hot and then they've kind of stalemated and they've gotten in their own way. And that's kind of where the turnovers have come into play. But there's a few different things, few keys to this game for the Raiders offense against their D. If we can exploit, we will be able to keep up with them and potentially get a W in this game. So the first thing is in the running game, their defense is one of the worst rushing defenses in the league. We played them earlier in the year and they, did a lot to shut us down. That was, as we've talked about, we've been having issues with the running game really all the way up until a couple weeks ago. So we weren't really poised last time to really beat them in the run. They were a little better in the run in the beginning of the year than they have been towards the end of the year. And I think one thing, so I went back and watched the Texans game that the Texans beat the Chargers. One thing that they were doing very well is they were getting their linemen to the second level and getting blocks on linebackers. And the running backs were able to find holes. They were able to block the front line enough to get their other guys to the second level and really just win the one-on-one battles. And that's what it's going to take. That's what we kind of saw last week and the week before is the Raiders in general. Last week was really mainly on defense, but they were winning their one-on-one battles. And if our line can get to the second level, I think if Jacobs is healthy, if Jacobs is able to go and he's, able to be himself out there, he's really good at making people miss and getting these cutbacks and kind of getting these 5 to 6, 7, 8 yard gains and then, busting out a 12, 15 yarder every once in a while. So I think a big key is going to be our offensive line getting to the second level, being able to get their blocks on the linebackers. The second point that I wanted to touch on is our passing game. Watching the Texans game, the Chargers have a very good secondary. Derwin James, one of the best safeties in the league, if not the best. They feel very comfortable with their receivers matching up on teams. And I think one thing that the Texans were able to do and exploit, now granted, they have a lot faster and quicker wide receivers than we do across the board, but they did a lot of crossing routes. They had a lot of guys going, across the field and kind of just finding gaps when they played zone and just flat out beating their man when they were man-to-man. So I think, and that's one thing that we've been really good at is being able to get Zay Jones across the field. Hunter Renfro's Hunter Renfro. He's able to kind of do his thing. run his routes and get kind of gadgety in the middle of the field. But I think if we're going to be able to have success in the passing game, which we're going to need to potentially keep up with their passing game, I think it's going to be kind of dialing up plays that's going to get Zay Jones across the field. Maybe Deshaun gets in there and runs some deep routes too. It's just kind of mixing up the routes and kind of getting guys crossing, making the DBs kind of choose. The linebackers, put them in conflict on who's got to drop and cover middle zones and stuff. So those are kind of my two little points on how our offense can succeed. They've been bad at the run lately, so we need to exploit it. We've kind of come on a little bit in our own as far as being able to block for the run. So maybe it's kind of, two sides of things coming together at the right time for us. But I think if we're going to have any success in the run game, it's going to be our, guards and centers getting to the second level. In the passing game, it's getting, keeping Zay Jones on his little hot streak he's on, and kind of getting guys across the field and putting those DBs in conflict.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. It's gonna be interesting. I think the Raiders of Week 4 are obviously different in a lot of ways than the Raiders of Week 18. So our leading receiver that game was Henry Ruggs, just for clarity, and we also had a different head coach. So it's going to be different as far as how we attack. I think we're going to try to slow the game down just to offset this Chargers explosive offense, which I'll be getting into now. So when we played in Week 4, we ended up losing 28-14, and they got on us quick. It was 21-0 going into halftime. So, but what we saw, and if I recall correctly, when we previewed this, is hey, we cannot let them establish the run against us because that's only going to make Herbert more dangerous, and that's really exactly what happened. So they were able to get Eckler going, and they got into a lot of heavy sets. I rewatched that Week 4 game, but they got into a lot of heavy sets that it's just not their style as far as their personnel. They have a lot of good weapons that we'll talk about, but they were able to get into those kind of those heavy personnel groupings and was able to establish the run and really kill this off play action. So Herbert's really good. Everyone knows that. So he's really good, and especially off play action if Eckler's rolling. So I think as far as scheme goes with Bradley, I mean, we could talk intricacies all we want of what we've seen over the year. We've really only played predominantly two coverages, and that's that cover 3 zone that we talk about a lot, that Seattle scheme, or we just play man. So we don't see a lot of cover 2 looks. I know we've done that against the Chiefs in the past, but Chargers do a really good job of stretching, or I guess pushing the ball vertically up the sidelines too. They take a lot of shots on the boundaries because Herbert has the arm to do that. And so that's where you can really find the gaps in a cover 2 scheme. So I would imagine they, probably don't even roll that out much, stay in that cover 3 zone. But I really hope that we can kind of get out there and play a little bit. Now, granted, the last 3 quarterbacks we faced have been Carson Wentz, Drew Lock, okay, and Nick Mullins, right? So we're not going to play them the same. Herbert is obviously a freak, but I think stylistically we can play similar. We can play similar where we're playing tighter coverage, even if it is zone, right? We could show man, kind of sugar that a little bit, or we can just play them in the man, because if we can force Herbert to make those tight window throws, and the most effective way to run man is to get pressure, right? So if we can get Yannick and get Max to get to Herbert to pressure them, or to pressure him and make those tight window throws, probably maybe earlier than he wants, I think that's our chance. We haven't had a turnover in like 6 games, okay? Or it's been a long time, at least. So I think
we've had one in the last 6 games.
One in the last 6 games, exactly. So I think if I would just prefer us to play a little bit tighter in coverage that way, to where he can't just sit back there. And if we got pressure to them, he'd still have kind of some windows to throw into. And I know it's easier said than done, but if we're running man, we got to be able to match up with these guys. I'll get into the specific matchups in a little bit, but if it's zone, our good linebackers got to be able to, especially off play action, be able to read play action and retreat and get into their under zone, whether it's under 2 or under 3. So I think it's just going to be tough, man. They're very explosive. They match up really well against us. You look at in the passing game, you look at Eckler versus our linebackers. Eckler against Perriman in the passing game, it's an advantage Eckler. Whoever he gets, I think Eckler is going to win those battles more often than not. I think you look at the wide receivers. You got Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. You got Guyton against Casey Hayward, Faishon, Trufant, and then any combination of Hobbs or Morrig, depending on who is taking the tight end. So I think the Chargers have the advantage in that matchup. You look at the tight end, Jared Cook. He's either going to get Hobbs or Morrig. I think we have the guys to play him, and I'm talking man on man right now, but we have Hobbs or Morrig to play Cook. And if you recall, late in that Chargers game, that was when Trayvon Mullen got hurt, where we had to change. We had to change Hobbs' role a little bit and kind of put him at that nickel linebacker. We just shuffled him around where he got beat on that punch fake. I can still see it as if it was yesterday. So, where the fullback leaked out. Everyone knows off play action tool.
Hey, we stole that at one point.
I know.
I think a few weeks later, I think you pointed on it that we stole it with Engel, and
it was
had a big
against
play on it, so.
the Falcons, I believe, or not the Falcons, the Eagles. We stole that play, but I think with Hobbs in his role, I know he's going to be big in run support. We'll probably blitz him, but any combination of him or Morrig against Jared Cook, I think we have the advantage there. And then you look at, let's just go the tackles against our DNs. You got Crosby, you got Yannick against Rashawn Slater, who's having an all-pro year. He's a rookie. And then you got Storm Norton, who's the right tackle. Incredible name. But I think we can take advantage of him. So whoever it is, whether it's Yannick or Max, I think we got to be able to win those matchups. I give the Raiders the advantage there. And I think our D-line has really came on a lot more strong throughout the end of the year. And I think we'll be more adept to stopping the run. So it's going to be tough. They just have really a lot of good skill players. But I think the biggest thing is we got to be able to create pressure. And Eckler gashed us for a couple big runs, but also when he didn't gash us with those long runs, it was 5, 6, 7 yards a pop, So we have to limit those. We have to limit those kind of death by 1,000 paper cuts because Herbert, he's going to take his shots. He's going to take his shots downfield, and he's really good. He has great deep ball accuracy. So we got our hands full, but I think, just kind of how it's been the last couple of weeks, we got to be able to put pressure on them, and we got to be able to then stay off the field, which goes into the offensive side, sustaining drives, not going 3 and out. Fun fact, the Raiders, and I know you had the offense, but the first game in week 4 when we played them, we had 59 total offensive yards in our first 7 drives. Okay, so 21-0 in the first half makes sense. Defense got wore out, but flip side, in the second half, only gave up 7 points. Our offense was able to have 2 touchdown scoring drives, longer drives, and kept them off the field. That's been the recipe for success throughout the year, and I think our defense has only gotten better since then, and we just got to be able to stick to it. But matchups wise, man on man, they match up pretty well against us. So you got what's his name? You got Gus Bradley, former Charger. So he always, he knows the team pretty well, but also like he schemes well against someone like a Herbert because he's always got a top to the lid. If that makes sense, right? We always got something on the back half, which I think we've seen, but where we've gotten eaten up is in between that 12 to 17 yard range where they can just pick us apart. They'll take the under stuff and they'll take something a little bit over the top. We've done a pretty good job of outside of just some blown assignments, not getting hit with big plays. So he's going to take his shots, but I'm more concerned with that under coverage from the linebackers if we're running that zone and being able to get in between those intermediate routes that'll kill us. So we'll see. I think that's what gives me the most anxiety is just this offense and they've sputtered too. They've had really big games, and they've also gone into Houston. Granted, they had a lot of guys out, but they've been pretty inconsistent as an explosive offense. But when they're explosive, they're explosive. So I think we'll have our hands full, but I think there's a lot of different areas where our D line, if we can slow down the run, our D line can get to Herbert and really press him there. So I think we have a fair shot, but kind of makes sense why it's the highest over under of the week for the NFL.
Yeah, and just touching on it, because I watched that Texans game. One of the things the Texans didn't do was get pressure on Herbert, and he was able to kind of pick them apart. And you've touched on it a little bit. You might have touched on it last time we played them, but if you have an effective, short range pass game to your running backs, it's just as effective as a running game. And I think that's where Eckler has a lot of success as well, is little dump offs and, delays, or just something, little screens, something that's just, him in the flats, let him, make things happen. So I think that's a big part of, you can kind of couple that into a big part of their run game is him with little dump offs and everything. But the Texans weren't able to get pressure on Herbert that much. And they were chunking him apart, kind of like they did with us, kind of like you were saying, in that 9 to 15 yard range, especially when you're on a mid to long third down and you're picking up third downs because of it. They just were able to take advantage of some mishaps, get some interceptions, and their offense was able to keep up with them. So it's not like the Texans went out there and just like shut their offense down or anything like that.
Right.
They weren't really able to get to the quarterback much. So I think will definitely be a big thing that, if we can do that, it's going to help kind of get him off his mark.
Yeah, I just treat them very similarly to the Chiefs, where you can make sure that you have the over the top, help, and give them the little stuff underneath. At some point, they're going to take their shots, right? But as you saw in the first game, sorry, I know I'm going off here a little bit, but in the first game we played the Chiefs at home, they 5 to 6 yarded us all day, right? They took those short. They're like, all right, you're going to give us the under stuff. We'll give it to you. And then 10 play drives, 86 yards, touchdown, right? So just like you said, Eckler's effective in the run game. If they don't get that going, they'll probably get him involved in some capacity. And we just have to be able to. The biggest thing is we have to be able to rally. We have to be able to wrap up, and we have to also take our shots when we can to cause turnovers to get him off his mark, because he is similar to DC in the sense where when he gets rolling, right? And so I think it's a tall task for the Raiders defense, but something that we're gonna have to figure out. And it's the most explosive offense, best quarterback we faced in a long time. So, but it's week 18, guys. That's why it's the season couldn't have ended any other way, with Sunday night prime time, win or go home, Raiders backs against the walls all year with so many different things. So that's why we got to predict. That's why we got to get into our predictions here. So I actually will correct myself. The line is Chargers are favored by 3 points, not 3.5. So Chargers -3, week 18. You want to go first? Or do you want me to?
I'll go first. I'll get after it first. So these last few weeks, I've been very, down. Not down, but like I'm gonna be hard pressed to, get my hopes up and whatnot. And mainly with the Colts game, but we went out there and we got a win against the Colts, right? I think that we can go out here and get a win here. I think we're going to go out here and win here. And you want to know why? Because we need to. Because we need to get a win. Because we're on a hot streak. We are going to go out. We are going to get a win. I think the Raiders are going to be back in a big way. I think they're going to put up points. I think this defense is going to give up points. But we are going to go out there. We are going to get a W. And it's going to be 34-30 Raiders.
Great. I love it. That's how you win. You put up points and you don't give up a lot of points, even though 30 is a lot.
All you got to do is give up less than what you put up, right?
Correct.
Score more points than the other team.
It's pretty straightforward. Well, I think at this point, there's just no going back. There's no going back. It's all vibes from here. The Raiders have defied all the odds. Did not expect us to win 3 straight games. Did not expect us to be in this position, and they proved me wrong in a very good way. And if you needed any more momentum, John Madden, RIP, his family will be lighting the torch Sunday night. So if we needed any more vibes, anything else to back the Raider Nation, it's going to be Madden's family. So that being said, I am going to go Raiders 30, Chargers 27. That is my final prediction.
Hell yeah.
That's my final prediction, and I might as well just ride with it. Carlson, you're going to kick a game winner, okay? You've done it 5 times already. You're going to kick game winner. Raiders 30-27. It's going to be stressful. It's going to be either the highest of the highs or the lowest of the lows. So we'll
Does
see.
this have anything to do with the fact that you called it the Bourbon Bowl earlier?
It's not a guess. It's what's going to be, Lynn Swan. But yeah, Mud Dog's going to win 30-27. I think I thought a lot about this because I like to play contrarian a little bit. Sometimes the pessimist to your optimist prime. But I think at this point, this is where we stand united. Man, I really hope we can get, a big, the majority of Raider Nation out there representing where it's just loud, where we actually use our home field advantage, just use all the vibes and just defy all the odds, guys. Because that's the fact that we still have a franchise at this point of the year is impressive enough. So we're on the cusp of a playoff berth, and I guess I'll say I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, if we were playing the Jags, wouldn't mind that at all. A winner go home, but this is how it has to be. This is how we got to get in true Raider fashion. So buckle up, guys. It's gonna be a good one.
Well, here we are. We get to preview a wild card game. That's very exciting. So we've talked about it, a lot. Raiders are going to Cincinnati. It's very exciting that we're able to be on the wild card slate, to be in the tournament. So we're going to break it down. I'm going to take the offense side of the ball. Mike is going to take the defense for the Raiders. We'll talk about those matchups. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay. Before we do, let me just give you the skinny here. So this is Saturday at 1:30 Pacific Standard Time. Raiders heading into Cincinnati. Currently, right now, Raiders are 5-point underdogs. So Cincinnati favored by. Actually, it looks like Cincinnati favored by 5.5. So over unders 49. The weather is going, I believe, is supposed to be a little chilly with some snow. Who knows how much of an impact that'll be? It depends really how wet it is. But I think it might be just a very cold game. So, Micah, if you'd like to start us, tell us what the keys to victory are for the Raiders defense against the Bengals offense.
The interesting part about the last time we played the Bengals, if you look at the score and you look at the way the game ended, it kind of paints a big different story than how the game kind of was played. Throughout that game, it was very close all the way up until probably 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. We were within one score in order to get back in the game, and we were kind of just hanging on there the whole time, right? The Raiders defense did a very good job at controlling the wide receivers, the big wide receivers, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. They did a very good job at kind of bracketing them over the top and keeping them from getting deep, making some big plays. Granted, they did get Tyler Boyd going. They kind of got Mixon going a little bit in the passing game, and so they kind of figured out how to supplement it other ways, right? But the biggest issue that we had in that game was our run defense. And our run defense and our front line in general is what you're starting to see kind of explode and do very well these last few weeks. So I think that if they can play their same game that they played last time in regards to pass coverage, I think they can do very well if they can limit the explosive plays with this team. I saw a stat earlier yesterday saying that the Bengals were number 1 in the league with scrimmage plays for 50-plus yards, with 12 of them on the season. We did a good job at limiting that last time. If we can do that again, on top of being able to keep playing well against the run, I think that's where it's going to be, because Joe Mixon, for the most part was, getting good yardage on his runs, and then had a few breakout runs, one of them for a touchdown. So they kind of were beating us, and then got a big gash when they were able to. So I have a lot of hope going into this, mainly because of the fact that, we somehow got here for, in the last 5 weeks, we pulled out wins to get here. But really our biggest killer last game was the run game, and that's what we've been playing well. And Yannick and Max played really well last game. They got to the quarterback very often. The biggest problem on defense for us was stupid penalties, roughing the passer calls. Yannick got one. You saw Faison get a personal foul, like helmet to helmet hit on, a 3rd and long, which actually that play specifically resulted in a touchdown, I believe. We were having these untimely, and that's been our MO a lot lately, but, really on the defensive side of things, 2 things that they need to button up is those stupid penalties, like that, the penalties that extend drives for the Bengals offense, like we did, and then just limiting Joe Mixon. We don't have to necessarily keep him under 100 yards or something like that, but we saw we were able to do that with Jonathan Taylor, but still be effective in rough kind of stopping the run. Joe Mixon went off on us last time, so if we can kind of control him and stop with the stupid penalties, I think we have a really good chance. Our coverage has been really good on the back end, at least in not giving up huge plays. I think looking at that Chargers game, you look at the points and stuff like that, say the defense didn't do too well, but they did really well in coverage and being physical with the receivers and making plays. So I think if we can do that, if I'm not mistaken, I think T. Higgins popped up on the injury report this week. I think he had a little bit of a foot problem, so we'll see where he's at going into this and how bad that actually is. But we did a great job at limiting those 2 legit wide receivers. Possibly like we talked about, the offensive rookie of the year. So we'll see. I think they need to keep with the same game plan they had when it comes to the passing game, and then hopefully that this linebacking crew, this defensive line front that's been playing really well in the run, hopefully they can keep with the momentum they have. But I think one of the biggest thing really is going to be the penalties, getting off the field when they've been able to, because a lot of that stuff has been stupid penalties. It's like, why are you even hitting the quarterback after he threw it like that, even though it was just a little bit of shove out of bounds? It's like, it's so stupid, so dumb. Faison's penalty was rough. It was, it was like hard to call, to be honest with you. It was kind of possibly, a shitty call on that one, but still, those type of things kill you because they extend drives, and Bengals ended up scoring on those. So I think if we're going to have any success, it's going to be limiting Joe Mixon, because he killed us last time, and just quitting with the stupid penalties, because we've had a problem with that. So I'm excited for this game. I think we have a really good shot at coming in here and winning this game, to be honest with you. And I think it's going to come down to the defense playing smart and playing sound like they have been lately. So
yeah, I think that has been my biggest gripe about this whole matchup, that obviously we were able to get paired up with the Bengals, and they're like, well, 32-13 was that last time they played. I'm like, it wasn't that, man. It was like, it was a 1-score game, and then the Raiders within the last 6 minutes kind of fumbled it all away. So, but yeah, I think those are some big points, and stupid penalties. I mean, it was Burrow threw for under 200 yards, and like Mixon went above 100, or 100 yards rushing, but he had to carry the ball 30 times. So it doesn't. I think our defense matches up well as far as the fact that such an explosive offense that it's like how the Chiefs are sometimes, where they just get a little too antsy and they just want to take those big plays. And Bradley is like, no, I'm not going to do it. So we're going to see if Burrow's going to be able to settle for those underneath stuff, if they're going to stay consistent with the run to set up play action. But I think our defenses came on a lot stronger, like you mentioned, throughout the back half of the year. So or at least since we played them. So I'm excited for that matchup. And then, on the other side of the ball, this is, it's an interesting matchup as well. They played us pretty well as far as, their defense against our offense. We have, I guess, as the season closed out, the Bengals are in the top 5 again in the rushing defense. So against the run, and they're actually bottom 5 against the pass. So take that for what it is. I think it's also been a benefactor of, teams that are in shootouts because of their offense, where teams have to pass the ball a little bit more. So who knows how those stats actually, how true they are. But I think, in the first game that we played, Waller was huge. Waller was a big mismatch problem. I think probably one of his last 100-yard games of the year was against the Bengals. So, and we factored in, or we got Moreau a lot more involved in the run game, or in the passing game as well. So I think you see the Raiders get into, some of that 22 personnel. And with, having those 2 tight ends out there, having Waller, having Moreau, and really attacking the seams, because that's where we gashed them a lot. In the last game, at least, you saw Waller doing a lot of work over the middle. That was also that game where DC threw that back shoulder to Moreau in the end zone. So I think if we can attack them, at least up, between the numbers, I think we're going to be pretty successful. And then also our run game has came on a lot, more since that game as well. Obviously our lines gotten a lot more comfortable in the run game, which has helped our passing game to where it doesn't have to be all DC. So that being said, they still have some guys that we're going to have to account for. Trey Hendrickson, who is a big free agent acquisition over the offseason, he's a menace out there. He's like I'm not saying this because they're both white, but he's kind of like a light version of Max Crosby. A lot of effort. He's always getting to the quarterback and disrupting it. So I worry about him against our tackles there. They have some guys in the back end. Jesse Bates, he's a free safety, Pro Bowl guy last year. They have some guys, their backers are pretty good. Their line's good with Sam Hubbard, DJ Reader, Larry Ogunjobi across the line. So I think they're going to give our offensive line some problems. But I think we match up pretty well as far as, our weapons against their weapons. So it's going to help having a healthy Waller. I know he's questionable. So is Jacobs, but it's really precautionary this time because we had, once again, a long game Sunday night. Everything else is probably walkthroughs. They're probably just getting treatment throughout the week. So I fully expect them to suit up, and it's going to come down to us being able to execute in the red zone. So that was, so I was rewatching this game as well. And this was the game with, it was like the first drive where Dallin Leavitt, he recovered that fumble and just ran the opposite way of where all the blockers were. So, but we went 3 and out. We went 3 and out when we got into the red area. So, not trading touchdowns for field goals. You're on the road. We can't. That's where I worry, is that our offense hasn't been good enough to really execute on the opportunities that our defense has provided, or the mistakes of the other team, aka the punt return that the Chargers fumbled. Different turnovers that we've gotten inside the red zone. It just worries me. Our red zone efficiency worries me, and you just have to be effective if you're on the road, if you get those opportunities, because, if you want to go toe to toe with that offense, like you talked about, our defense can only hold on for so long. So, granted, I think the times that we've given up 25 plus points, it's been because our offense can't keep our defense off the field. They can't give them a blow, give them some rest. So our offense is going to have to be able to execute. We're going to have to be able to convert on third down, and really in the red area is going to be huge. So I fully expect them to have a plan for Waller, because that gave them fits last time we played them. And I think, as you saw last week, we used Waller a lot as kind of a decoy, moved him across the line. You saw they would bracket him. And then when they got into the red zone, the focus became a little bit more Hunter Renfrow as far as the how the Chargers attacked it. I think you see a similar matchup there. So we're going to have to see a big game out of Zay Jones. We're going to have to see Brian Edwards showing up. And really, we're going to have to take a few shots with Deshaun Jackson. When you have a season like you did, like the Raiders, right, where you kind of just, there's so much up and down, so much like this is the last place anyone expected us to be as the 5th seed in the AFC. You kind of just have to go out there and play that similar mentality like the Cowboys, right? Where we're just going to go out and we're going to fight, and we're going to, run some trick plays. We're going to do some crazy things on special teams and really do everything we can to get any kind of momentum, because that Bengals fan base has been crying and pleading and shouting for, a team like a home playoff game and being able to take the division. So as much as there are rivals, I think the Bengals are very similar to the Raiders, where they're just like, oh my gosh, we finally got a team. Now, granted, they probably have a little bit more of a future with their franchise quarterback and Joe Burrow and some weapons to really hold on to. But it's a similar thing where you got to take the crowd out of the game. And, and that comes with our offense being able to sustain long drives. And we got to take a couple shots, man. We got to take some shots with Djax. Like, we got to be able to, stick with the run enough to where they know that we're not going to give up on it. So I feel better about the fact that Jacobs has came on a lot more, especially with the O-line. But if we get into this, we're committing penalties, holding calls, and it's, 2nd and 12, 3rd and 8, for the majority of the game. I worry that our tackles are going to hold up against that D line, and also that we're going to be able to. I don't know. We're not as explosive as them, and that's just a fact. So I think it's an interesting matchup. I think they run a 4-3. We're very similar with the scheme. We're very similar there. They kind of stack a lot of guys on the line too, a little bit similar to what we do. They're very aggressive against the run. So I think we got to take our shots when we can, but it's going to come down to third downs. Sorry, I'm going to keep riding this tail. It's going to come down to third downs, and it's going to come down to being able to execute in the red zone. So it's a tough matchup. It might come down to, which quarterbacks make, the big time throws. Are we able to take advantage of the opportunities that we get? Because I do think our D is good, but you can only be good for so long against a team like that. But if they're staying out on the field because our offense can't convert, our offense can't sustain drives and put up points, it's going to be a long day for them. So offense, this is going to be on you. It's going to be time for you to be able to get back to who we were, where we are explosive. We're able to get inside the 10-yard line and actually, holy smokes, can we get in the end zone? Can we, it's like our offense, it's like our playbook shrinks. I know the whole field shrinks, but we really struggle there. So Raiders got to be able to come out, be aggressive. They got to be able to attack. They got to be consistent with the run, regardless of the outcome. So being able to mix it up with Jacobs, Peyton Barber, get Richard in there a little bit, and that short passing game too, like we've talked about, where short passing game, it still kind of keeps the D ends a little bit to where they can't just pin their ears back and go. So that's a lot of everything in a sense, but it's like, I think we have good matchups. They're going to have a plan for Waller and Renfro, and that each player helps the other person, where if they're going to key on Renfro, we're going to have some opportunities with Waller. So I think it's going to be put up or shut up for the offense, because the defense is going to have their hands full, and the offense needs to just be able to really just come through like they have struggled to do when it matters most inside the red area and on third down. So it's going to be a battle, but I think as far as a matchup that we can get, the matchup that we can draw in the playoffs, I think this is something that is as favorable as it could be for us compared to going into Kansas City or going into Buffalo. So it's time. It's prediction time. So as mentioned, Raiders are 5.5-point dogs. Over under is 49. Micah, what say you?
The fact that we have won 5 straight games, the fact that we have basically been Goonies and never said die to get us to this point, I can talk myself into winning and to beating anybody right now. And I truly believe I don't have to talk myself into this Bengals game, because I truly believe we can go in here, we can get a W. It's going to come down to 2 things. Being able to establish the run on offense and being able to stop the run on defense. Luckily for our team, both of those parts of our team have started to kind of get better and, kind of come together as one. So I think the Raiders go out here. I think they do win 28-24, get a big W, and we're on to whoever's next. So, Raiders win 28-24, my prediction.
I hate to be the guy that's like, hey, we have nothing to lose, but we kind of have nothing to lose here. Like, we're very fortunate. I'm not going to feel that way going into the game. I'm be very nervous and be very critical on every play that they might mess up or have bad execution on. But I think we're just playing with house money right now. So I'm going to stay optimistic. I'm going to go Raiders 24, Bengals 21. I think that's going to be the kind of game that if it gets to that higher scoring shootout, like that Chargers game last week, I just don't know if we have enough firepower. And I think that the best thing that we could do is just keep Burrow off the field. It's really the same approach that we do against the Chargers and Chiefs. Hold on to the ball, be able to convert, and kind of play that slow to methodical game with our offense and try to beat them up a little bit earlier in the game and take our shots when we can. So I'm going to go Raiders 24, Bengals 21, and I think we move on. Any given Sunday. Say it again. Any given Sunday. So
any given Sunday. So I'm happy that we're on the same page with that. I didn't necessarily think we weren't going to be, but 1:30 Saturday, Raiders travel to the Bengals, Cincinnati. Will we get some snow? Will we not? There's a question, but it would be wild. I don't want snow, to be honest with you. It would be awesome to watch that kind of game, but that doesn't bode well for the way our offense plays. So, but here we are. We're on to Cincinnati. We're going in. Time to get a big W. Time to keep the train rolling. Keep the train in Celebration Station.